He had years of combat experience, tours in the sandbox, and a silver star pinned to his chest. But on a humid afternoon in Georgia, Master Sergeant Jamal Brooks was terrified. Not of an enemy sniper, but of the man standing a few feet away with a badge and a shaking hand on his holster. Officer Brad Thompson thought he had a thug cornered. He thought he was about to teach a lesson in respect. He had no idea he was moments away from ending his own career, destroying his life, and facing down the only man in the U.S. military who could make a 3-star general tremble. When the black SUV pulled up, Thompson smiled, thinking it was backup. He was wrong, dead wrong. The heat in Oakwood, Georgia was the kind that did not just sit on you, it pushed you down. The humidity rising off the asphalt distorted the air like a funhouse mirror. Master Sergeant Jamal Brooks adjusted his grip on the handle of the Pelican tactical case in his left hand. He was not in uniform that day, just a crisp navy blue polo shirt tucked into khaki cargo pants and polished boots that betrayed his profession to anyone paying close enough attention. He checked his watch. He had time to get to City Hall. The schedule was tight, but Jamal was never late. In the Special Forces community, on time was late. Early was on time. He walked with purpose, his stride long and measured. Jamal was built like a heavy-duty pickup truck, broad shoulders, shaved head, and eyes that were constantly scanning the perimeter, a habit from years in Fallujah and Helmand Province that he could not shake even here in the suburbs of America. The black Dodge Charger sat in the shade of an old oak tree near the corner of 4th and Elm. The engine was idling. Inside, Officer Brad Thompson was bored. Thompson had a buzz cut that was growing out unevenly, and a uniform that strained around the midsection. He had been on the force for some time, and he had been stuck on patrol while the Golden Boys made detective. Thompson blamed politics. His file said otherwise. Excessive force complaints, suspensions for conduct unbecoming, and a reputation. In the precinct locker room as a liability, they called him Bulldog to his face, pretending it was a compliment. Behind his back, they called him a lawsuit waiting to happen. Thompson tapped his steering wheel, watching the pedestrians. He saw a teenager on a skateboard, too fast, a mother with a stroller, jaywalking technically. And then he saw Jamal. Thompson sat up. He saw a large black man. He saw a shaved head. He saw a tactical, heavy-duty case that looked expensive. Too expensive for a guy walking down 4th Street in the middle of a workday. "Gotcha," Thompson muttered, shifting the car into drive. He did not hit the lights immediately. He rolled the cruiser forward, creeping along the curb, matching Jamal's pace. This was the hunt. Thompson loved the hunt. He wanted to see the guy sweat first. He wanted to see that nervous glance over the shoulder, the stutter step that proved guilt. But Jamal did not look. He did not break stride. He kept walking, eyes forward, the case swinging rhythmically by his side. This irritated Thompson. Ignoring a cop car was an act of defiance in his book. Thompson blipped the siren. Boop. Whoop. Jamal stopped. He did not jump. He did not run. He simply ceased forward motion, took a deep breath, and slowly turned his head toward the cruiser. His face was a mask of calm discipline. Thompson rolled the passenger window down. "Hey, you. Come here." Jamal turned his body fully. He kept his hands visible, resting on the doorframe. "Is there a problem, officer?" I said. "Come here." Thompson barked, leaning over the center console. "Do not make me ask twice." Jamal walked to the curb, stopping a short distance from the car. He set the Pelican case down gently between his feet. "How can I help you?" "Where are you coming from?" Thompson asked, scanning Jamal's waistline for a bulge. "Home." Jamal said. "Where are you going?" "I have a meeting at City Hall." "A meeting?" Thompson scoffed. He opened the door and stepped out. He hitched up his duty belt, puffing out his chest to maximize his presence. He was shorter than Jamal, which only annoyed him more. What kind of meeting requires a case like that? "You carrying power tools, drugs, weapons?" Jamal's expression did not flicker. "Personal effects, officer. I am running an errand for my employer." "Your employer?" Thompson repeated, stepping into Jamal's personal space. The smell of stale coffee and aggression wafted off the cop. "And who might that be?" "Let me guess. You are a security consultant." "I am a Master Sergeant in the United States Army," Jamal said, his voice level, smooth, and deep. "I am stationed at Fort Moore. I am currently on detail." Thompson laughed. It was a dry, hacking sound. "Right. And I am the director of the CIA. Let me see some ID, Sergeant." Jamal moved slowly. "My wallet is in my back right pocket. I am reaching for it now." "Just get the damn ID," Thompson snapped, his hand hovering near his taser. Jamal produced his wallet and slid out his military ID, handing it over. Thompson snatched it. He looked at the card, then at Jamal, then back at the card. It was real, a CAC card, high clearance. But Thompson was already committed. If he walked away now, he would look weak. He would look like he made a mistake, and Brad Thompson did not make mistakes. "This looks fake," Thompson said, tossing the ID back at Jamal. It hit Jamal's chest and fluttered to the ground. Jamal did not react to the insult. He slowly bent down to retrieve it. "It is government-issued property, officer. You can run the number." "I do not need to run anything," Thompson said, his face reddening. "I need to know what is in the case. Open it." Jamal stood up. He placed a protective foot near the case. "I cannot do that, officer." "Excuse me?" "This case contains classified property of the United States Department of Defense. I am under direct orders not to open it in an unsecured location. If you want to search this case, you need a warrant or a military police representative present." The silence on the street was heavy. A few people had stopped walking. A shopkeeper stepped out of his deli to watch. Thompson felt the eyes on him. Classified property, direct orders. The guy was talking down to him, quoting regulations, making him look small. "I am the law on this street," Thompson hissed, stepping nose to nose with Jamal. "And I say that case looks like it contains stolen property. Probable cause. Open the case." "No," Jamal said. Thompson's eyes went wide. He grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, I have a suspect resisting at 4th and Elm. Large male. Possible weapons. Send backup." Thompson sighed a tiny release of frustration. "Officer, you are making a mistake. Please call your supervisor." "Turn around," Thompson shouted, unclipping his taser. "Turn around and put your hands on the car now." The street theater of Oakwood was in full swing now. Passers-by had their phones out. The black rectangles were held high like shields, capturing every pixel of the confrontation. The modern weapon against authority, the live stream. He did not do anything. A woman shouted from near the bakery. He was just walking. "Back up." Thompson screamed, waving the taser toward the crowd before training the red laser dot back on Jamal's chest. "Everyone back the hell up or you are all going to jail for obstruction." Jamal had not moved toward the car. He stood like a statue, hands raised to shoulder height, palms open. "Officer Thompson," he said, reading the nameplate. "I am not resisting. I am informing you of the legal restrictions regarding this equipment. If you tase me, you will be assaulting a federal agent in the performance of his duties. Last warning." Thompson yelled. His adrenaline was spiking, drowning out reason. He saw the crowd. He saw the defiant soldier, and he felt the panic of losing control. "Get on the car." Thompson did not wait. He did not fire the taser. Too much paperwork. He holstered it and lunged, grabbing Jamal's wrist to wrench his arm behind his back. It was like trying to bend a steel beam. Jamal did not fight back. He knew better. If he struck the officer, it was game over, no matter who was right. He simply made his body rigid. Stop resisting. Thompson screamed for the cameras. "I am not resisting," Jamal said calmly, though his voice was tighter now. "I am maintaining my balance." Thompson, frustrated and embarrassed by his inability to move the larger man, drew his baton. He struck Jamal's thigh, a hard, meaty thwack. The crowd gasped. Jamal flinched, his jaw tightening, but he did not drop. He slowly turned and placed his hands on the hood of the steaming police cruiser. "I am complying," Jamal said through gritted teeth. "Do not strike me again. Spread them." Thompson kicked Jamal's legs apart. He roughly patted Jamal down, jamming his fingers into pockets, pulling out keys, a phone, and a folded piece of paper. He threw them onto the hood of the car. Then Thompson turned his eyes to the Pelican case. "Now." Thompson panted, sweat dripping into his eyes. "Let us see what you are hiding." "Do not touch that case," Jamal warned, his head turning. "Officer, I am begging you. That case is not for you." "Shut up." Thompson grabbed the handle. It was locked, heavy-duty padlocks. Thompson looked around. He needed to get into it. He needed to prove this guy was a criminal. If he opened it and found drugs or a gun with the serial number filed off, the baton strike was justified. The harassment was justified. He would be a hero. "Give me the key," Thompson demanded. "I do not have it," Jamal said. "The courier has the key." "I am just the transport." "Liar." Thompson went to his trunk. He pulled out a crowbar. "Officer, that is government property," Jamal shouted, finally breaking his composure. He tried to push off the car, but Thompson spun around, pressing the crowbar against Jamal's chest, pushing him back down. "Stay down." Thompson turned back to the case. He jammed the tip of the crowbar under the lip of the Pelican case near the latch. He wrenched it. Crack. The high-grade polymer splintered. The latch gave way. Thompson smirked. He ripped the lid open, ready to reveal the contraband to the cheering crowd. He looked inside. The smirk vanished. There were no drugs. There were no guns. Inside the case, nestled in custom-cut, velvet-lined foam, was a triangular wooden box with a glass front. Inside the glass was a folded American flag. Resting on top of the flag was a blue velvet box with gold trim, and next to that, a framed photograph of a young, smiling soldier. A boy, really, wearing a dress uniform. Thompson froze. "It is a funeral detail," Jamal whispered, his voice cracking with a mix of rage and sorrow. "We are burying him. That is the flag for his mother." Thompson stared at the broken latch. He stared at the pristine flag. A cold pit formed in his stomach. You stole this?" Thompson stammered, his voice weak. He was grasping at straws. "Who steals a funeral flag?" Jamal asked, stepping off the car. He was not following orders anymore. He walked toward the case. "Back up." Thompson panicked, raising the crowbar again. "I did not say move." "You broke the seal," Jamal said, looking at the damage. "You desecrated a sealed transport." "I'm calling it in," Thompson said, backing up toward his radio, sweat pouring down his face. "Suspect is hostile." Possible stolen military valor items. Just then, the sound of engines cut through the humidity. Not police sirens. These were deep, throaty V8 engines, heavy engines. Thompson looked down the street. A convoy was approaching. 2 military police Harley-Davidsons, lights flashing blue and red, were escorting a massive black Chevrolet Suburban. The Suburban had flags mounted on the front fenders. One was the American flag. The other was red with 3 white stars. The crowd went silent. The convoy didn't stop at the intersection. It rolled right up to the scene, boxing Thompson's cruiser in against the curb. The doors of the Suburban flew open before it even came to a complete halt. 4 soldiers in full MP gear, berets, white armbands, sidearms, stepped out, moving with terrifying precision. They formed a perimeter. Then, from the back seat, a boot hit the pavement. It was polished to a black mirror shine. General Edward Kane stood up. He had hair like steel wool and a face carved from granite. He was wearing his Class A uniform. 3 silver stars gleamed on each shoulder. His chest was a rack of colorful ribbons that told the history of American warfare for decades. He did not look at the crowd. He did not look at the MPs. He looked at Officer Thompson. And then he looked at Master Sergeant Brooks. And why is Corporal Tyler Morgan's flag sitting on the damn sidewalk? Thompson lowered the crowbar. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The general took a step forward. Officer Brad Thompson had spent his entire career believing that the badge on his chest was a shield. It protected him from consequences. It made his word final. When he walked into a room, people stopped talking. When he gave an order, people moved. But as General Edward Kane walked toward him, Thompson felt that shield turn into paper. The general did not walk like a cop. Cops walked with a swagger, a side-to-side roll of the hips that said, "I dare you." The general walked with a terrifying economy of motion. Every step was a calculated advance. He stopped exactly a short distance from Thompson. He was taller than the officer, but in that moment he looked immense. Kane did not scream. He did not curse. He simply looked down at the crowbar in Thompson's hand, then up at his sweaty, pale face. "I asked you a question, officer," Kane said. His voice was like grinding stones. "Why is my master sergeant leaning against the hood? And why is the property of the United States Army lying broken on the pavement?" Thompson swallowed. His throat clicked dryly. I conducted a stop. Suspicious activity." "Suspicious activity?" Kane repeated. He turned his head slowly to look at Jamal. "Sergeant Brooks, report." Jamal straightened up immediately. Despite the bruising on his thigh and the wrenching pain in his shoulder, he snapped to a position of parade rest. "Sir, I was transiting from the residence to City Hall for the ceremony." Officer Thompson initiated a stop. He demanded I open the Pelican case. I informed him it contained sensitive items and declined. He escalated. "Sir," he resisted. Thompson blurted out, trying to regain control of the narrative. He refused to show ID. He was acting hostile. Hostile? Kane's eyes snapped back to Thompson. "Hostile?" Kane reached out. His hand moved so fast, Thompson flinched. But the general did not hit him. He plucked the crowbar out of Thompson's loose grip as easily as taking a toy from a toddler. Kane inspected the tip of the crowbar, seeing the bits of black polymer plastic stuck to the metal. "You used a breaching tool on a sealed container," Kane said quietly. "Did you have a warrant?" "I have probable cause," Thompson argued, though his voice squeaked. "He fits the description of a suspect. Heavy transport. Possible drugs." "Drugs?" Kane said. He tossed the crowbar. It landed on the asphalt with a heavy metallic clang that made the gathered crowd jump. The general walked over to the open case. He knelt down, ignoring the grease on the road that might stain his pristine trousers. With incredible tenderness, he reached out and adjusted the velvet cloth around the flag. He checked the glass frame of the photo. It was uncracked. He stood up, holding the photo of the young soldier. He turned the picture so Thompson could see it. "Do you know who this is, officer?" Kane asked. Thompson squinted. "Some kid. Look, I did not know what was in the box, okay? But your guy should not have been walking around with a tactical case if he did not want trouble." "This kid," Kane said, his voice rising just a decibel enough to carry the dangerous edge of a storm front. "This Corporal Tyler Morgan. He was a combat medic." Kane took a step closer to Thompson. In a valley you could not find on a map, his unit was ambushed. Corporal Morgan dragged 3 wounded men out of a burning Humvee while taking fire. He saved their lives, and while he was treating the last man, a mortar round landed nearby. The silence on the street was total. Even the traffic seemed to have stopped. "Master Sergeant Brooks," Kane gestured to Jamal, crawled through yards of open ground to recover Corporal Morgan's body, so he would not be left behind. He carried this boy on his back for miles. The general leaned in, his face inches from Thompson's. "Sergeant Brooks carried that boy through hell, so his mother could bury him with dignity. And you looked at the police cruiser, then at the baton on Thompson's belt. You hit him with a stick because you did not like the way he walked." Thompson stepped back, bumping into his own car. I was doing my job." He was non-compliant. He was disciplined. "Disciplined?" Kane roared, finally unleashing the voice that had commanded brigades. "If you had been non-compliant, officer, you would be in the intensive care unit right now. You think a master sergeant in the Special Forces let you twist his arm because he could not stop you? He let you do it because he respects the law more than you do." Thompson was hyperventilating. He looked around for help. "Dispatch," he yelled into his shoulder mic. "Where's that backup?" "Officer in distress, 4th and Elm." "They are coming," Kane said, crossing his arms. "And God help them, because I am not done." The wail of sirens cut through the heavy air. It was not just one car. It was 3. The Oakwood Police Department had heard officer in distress, and they were responding with the cavalry. 2 cruisers and an SUV skidded around the corner, lights blazing. Doors flew open, and 6 officers spilled out, guns drawn. "Drop it!" one of the officers screamed, aiming his Glock at the nearest armed man, which happened to be one of the military police soldiers standing guard near the general's Suburban. The MP did not flinch. He did not drop his rifle, which was slung low in a defensive posture. But he raised his hand slightly, palms out. "Federal agents, stand down." "I said, drop the weapon," the police officer shouted. "Holster your weapon, Sergeant," General Kane barked, not even turning around to face the new arrivals. The lead police officer, a thick-set sergeant named Ryan Pierce, paused. He saw the uniforms. He saw the MP armbands. And then he saw the 3 stars on Kane's shoulders. Pierce signaled his team. "Lower them. Lower them. It is military." The police lowered their guns but kept their hands on the grips. Pierce, a veteran who knew how to handle messy situations, holstered his weapon and walked briskly toward Thompson. "Thompson, what the hell is going on?" Pierce asked, eyes darting from the general to the crowd of civilians recording on their phones. "We got calls about an assault. They boxed me in, Sergeant," Thompson said, pointing a shaking finger at the general. "I made a stop. Suspect refused to identify." I detained him, and then this circus pulled up. They are interfering with a police investigation." "There is no situation," Kane said coldly. "There is a crime scene, and your officer is the perpetrator." Pierce stiffened. The blue wall of silence was an instinctual thing. When an outsider attacked a cop, the cops closed ranks. It did not matter if Thompson was wrong. They would handle it in-house. They would not let an outsider dress them down on the street. "With all due respect, sir," Pierce said, his voice hardening, "you do not have authority here. This is city property." "If your man broke the law, my man," Kane interrupted, "was transporting the remains and effects of a fallen soldier to City Hall for a transfer to the family, your officer profiled him, assaulted him, and destroyed government property." Kane pointed to the broken Pelican case. Pierce looked at the case. He saw the flag. He saw the photo. Pierce froze. He squinted at the photo. "Wait," Pierce whispered. He stepped closer to the case, ignoring Thompson. He looked at the face of the young soldier in the picture, the boy with the bright smile and the messy blonde hair. Pierce's face drained of color. He looked up at Thompson. "Brad, did you open this?" He would not open it. Thompson defended himself. "It looked suspicious." "Did you open it?" Pierce asked again, his voice trembling. "Yes. I had to check for contraband." Pierce closed his eyes. He put a hand to his forehead. "Oh my God, what?" Thompson asked, confused by his supervisor's reaction. "It is just a flag, Sergeant. We can buy them a new case. Why is everyone acting like I shot the Pope?" Pierce turned to Thompson. The anger in his eyes was different now. It was not the defensive anger of a cop protecting his own. It was personal. "You idiot," Pierce hissed. "You absolute sergeant," Thompson said, exasperated. "That is Corporal Tyler Morgan." "I know," the general said. "His name?" "No," Pierce said, his voice low and dangerous. "Corporal Morgan is Chief Morgan's son." The world seemed to stop spinning for Brad Thompson. He felt the blood leave his extremities. His knees felt like water. Chief of Police David Morgan, the man who signed Thompson's paychecks, the man who was currently on compassionate leave because his youngest son had been killed in action overseas. Thompson looked at the photo again. He saw the resemblance now, the same chin, the same eyes. He had just tackled the man bringing the chief's dead son home. He had just taken a crowbar to the flag that was supposed to be handed to the chief's wife. Thompson stammered. "I did not know." "Ignorance is not a defense for stupidity," General Kane said. He had been watching the realization dawn on them. "Sergeant Pierce, get your chief on the line now." "Sir, he is at the memorial service prep," Pierce said, looking sick. "He is waiting for the flag." "Get him on the phone," Kane ordered. "Tell him General Kane is here. Tell him there has been an incident regarding the transport of his son." Pierce scrambled for his radio, but then stopped. He looked at the crowd. He looked at the cell phones. He realized this was not just a mistake. This was a career-ending viral video waiting to upload. "General," Pierce pleaded, lowering his voice, "we can fix this. We can escort the sergeant the rest of the way. We can handle Thompson internally. Please do not make this a thing. The chief, he does not need to know the details right now. It would break him." Kane stared at Pierce. For a second, it looked like he might consider it. He looked at the flag. He looked at the photo of the boy who had died saving his squad. Then he looked at Master Sergeant Brooks, who was rubbing his thigh where the baton had struck him. "Sergeant Brooks," Kane said, "are you injured?" "I am fine, General," Brooks said. "Do you want to press charges?" Kane asked. The street went silent. Pierce held his breath. Thompson looked like he was about to vomit. Jamal looked at Thompson. He saw the fear. He saw the bully reduced to a coward. "No, sir," Jamal said slowly. Thompson let out a breath he did not know he was holding. "However," Jamal continued, his eyes hard, "I cannot complete the mission. The containment is breached. The case is compromised. I cannot present a damaged case to the family." "Agreed," Kane said. The general turned back to Pierce. "We are not going to hide this, Sergeant Pierce, because if we hide it, Officer Thompson learns nothing. And next time, it will not be a master sergeant." He stops. "It will be a kid who does not have my discipline, and that kid will end up dead." Kane reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the chief myself," Kane said. "And Officer Thompson, you're going to stay right there, because when David Morgan gets here, I want you to look him in the eye and tell him why you took a crowbar to his son's memory." Thompson leaned back against his cruiser and slid down until he was sitting on the bumper. He put his head in his hands, but the karma was not done yet, not even close. From the back of the crowd, a black sedan pulled up. It was a sleek, expensive Mercedes. A woman stepped out. She was wearing a black dress and dark sunglasses. She held a handkerchief in her hand. It was Sarah Morgan, the chief's wife, the fallen soldier's mother. She had come looking for the transport because they were late. She saw the police lights. She saw the soldiers. And then she saw the open, broken case on the sidewalk. She let out a scream that tore through the humidity like a physical blow. "Tyler!" Thompson looked up, and in that moment, he knew his life as he knew it was over. The silence that had fallen over the intersection of 4th and Elm was no longer heavy. It was suffocating. Sarah Morgan did not run. She moved with the frantic, disjointed stumbling of a woman walking through a nightmare. Her heels clicked unevenly on the asphalt. She did not look at the police cars. She did not look at the imposing figure of General Kane or the stoic, statue-like presence of Master Sergeant Brooks. Her eyes were locked on the pavement, specifically on the splintered black plastic and the velvet interior exposed to the harsh afternoon sun. "Tyler!" She choked out again. Falling to her knees beside the Pelican case, she reached out, her hands trembling so violently she could barely touch the glass frame. She brushed a speck of dust off the photograph of her son. Then she saw the crowbar marks on the side of the case, the jagged, violent gouges where the plastic had been pried open like a cheap crate. She looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed behind her sunglasses, which she pulled off and threw onto the ground. She looked at Master Sergeant Brooks. "Why is it broken?" she whispered. "Why is my son's box broken?" Brooks, who had faced enemy fire without blinking, looked like he wanted to look away. He could not bear the pain in her eyes. He dropped to one knee, bringing himself to her level. "Ma'am," Brooks said, his voice a low rumble of apology. "I am sorry. I failed to protect the perimeter." "He did not do it, Mrs. Morgan," a voice said from the crowd. It was the kid in the varsity jacket who had shouted earlier. It was the cop, the bald one. He smashed it open with a crowbar. Sarah slowly turned her head. She looked at Officer Brad Thompson. Thompson was still sitting on the bumper of his cruiser. He looked small. He looked like a child caught playing with matches while the house burned down. "You did not know?" she asked, her voice trembling with a rage that was hotter than the Georgia sun. "You did not know you were destroying a funeral transport. You did not know you were attacking a soldier." "Sarah!" The shout came from behind the police line. A silver Ford Explorer, the chief's personal vehicle, had pulled up behind the General's Suburban. Chief David Morgan slammed the door. He was still in his dress uniform, prepared for the ceremony. He looked tired. The recent weeks had aged him. He ran toward his wife, wrapping his arms around her as she collapsed into sobs against his chest. He held her tight, looking over her shoulder at the scene. He saw the broken case. He saw General Kane standing with his arms crossed, and he saw Master Sergeant Brooks standing at attention, a bruise forming on his jawline, dust on his knees. Chief Morgan made eye contact with Kane. The two men knew each other. They had worked joint task forces before. "General," Morgan said, his voice tight. "What happened?" "I think you should ask your officer," Kane said, gesturing to Thompson. He seemed very eager to enforce the law earlier. Chief Morgan gently let go of his wife, handing her to Sergeant Pierce, who looked like he wished the earth would swallow him whole. "Take care of her, Pierce." "Yes, Chief." Morgan walked toward Thompson. The chief was not a big man, but he carried the weight of years of law enforcement. He was respected because he was fair. He was loved because he protected his own. But looking at Thompson now, there was no love in David Morgan's eyes. There was only a cold, dark void. "Brad," Morgan said softly. "Chief, listen." Thompson started, his hands coming up in a pleading gesture. It went sideways. The guy, he had this heavy case. He would not open it. I had probable cause. I did not know it was for Tyler. If you had known, Morgan repeated. He looked at the crowbar lying in the gutter. He looked at the baton on Thompson's belt. "If you had known it was my son, you would have treated this man with respect." "Yes, of course." Thompson nodded vigorously, thinking he found a lifeline. "So," Morgan said, his voice dropping to a whisper, "you are telling me that if it was anyone else's son, if it was just a regular soldier or a regular citizen, you would have felt justified in beating him and smashing his property?" Thompson froze. He realized the trap too late. "That is not what I meant," Thompson whispered. "That is exactly what you meant," Morgan said. He reached out and grabbed Thompson's badge, the silver shield pinned to his chest. "You do not protect this community, Thompson. You hunt it." Morgan yanked. He did not unclasp the badge. He ripped it. The fabric of Thompson's shirt tore with a sickening rip, and the pin snapped. Thompson gasped. "Chief, you cannot. You are relieved of duty," Morgan said, holding the badge in his fist. "Effective immediately. Gun, badge, car keys. Now. David, please." Thompson begged, tears finally spilling over. "Do not do this here. Not in front of the cameras. My life. Your life." Morgan stepped back, pointing at the Pelican case. "My son gave his life. You just ruined the last journey he will ever take because you wanted to feel big." Morgan turned his back on him. "Pierce, disarm him. Put him in the back of the transport. I want him booked for assault, destruction of federal property, and conduct unbecoming. If he resists, you have my permission to use the taser." Pierce nodded grimly. He stepped forward, pulling his handcuffs out. "Turn around, Brad." Thompson looked at his colleagues, the other officers, the ones he joked with in the locker room, the ones he drank beer with. They were all looking at the ground, or they were looking at him with disgust. The blue wall had crumbled. Thompson turned around. The click of the handcuffs was the loudest sound on the street. The arrest of Officer Brad Thompson took mere minutes, but the destruction of his life unfolded quickly. The crowd on 4th and Elm had not just been watching, they had been broadcasting. By the time Thompson was shoved into the back of a squad car, the very place he had tried to put Master Sergeant Brooks, The video was already trending on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. The title of the most popular clip, uploaded by the teenager in the varsity jacket, was simple and devastating. Cop attacks, Gold Star mom's flag, gets owned by General. It had millions of views quickly. As the police cleared the scene, the dynamic shifted from physical drama to digital judgment. The internet is a cruel judge, and it works faster than any court of law. In the back of the squad car, Thompson's phone, which Pierce had forgotten to obfuscate immediately, was buzzing against his leg. It was not stopping. Text messages, Twitter notifications, emails. He managed to slide it out of his pocket with his handcuffed hands. He looked at the screen. "You piece of trash. I hope you rot. We know where you live." And then a news alert from CNN. Georgia officer detained after destroying military funeral transport. General intervenes. Thompson dropped the phone. He squeezed his eyes shut. He thought about his pension. Gone. He thought about his reputation. Gone. He thought about the upcoming trial. Back on the street, the tone had shifted to a somber reverence. General Kane and Chief Morgan stood over the broken case. The general signaled to one of the MPs, "Bring the replacement container from the Suburban." Kane ordered. "And bring the white gloves." The MP ran to the SUV and returned with a pristine, polished oak case. "Chief," Kane said gently, "I cannot undo the disrespect that happened here, but we can finish the mission." Chief Morgan nodded, wiping his eyes. "Thank you, General." "Sergeant Brooks," Kane said, front and center. Brooks stepped forward. He was limping slightly now, the adrenaline wearing off, revealing the damage Thompson's baton had done to his quadricep. "Can you complete the details, Sergeant?" Kane asked. "Yes, sir," Brooks said. "It would be my honor." "Then let us fix this, right there on the sidewalk, under the gaze of the weeping mother in the silent crowd." The soldiers performed a field transfer. It was a ceremony of absolute precision. Brooks and the general put on white gloves with movements so slow and synchronized they looked like a single organism. They lifted the folded flag from the broken plastic case. They held it in the air for a moment, the red, white, and blue shining in the sun, before gently lowering it into the new oak box. They transferred the medals. They transferred the photo of Tyler Morgan. When it was done, Brooks closed the new case. He picked it up. He ignored the pain in his leg. He marched over to Sarah Morgan. He stopped, snapped his heels together, and presented the case with both hands. "Ma'am," Brooks said, his voice thick with emotion. "On behalf of a grateful nation, and on behalf of the brothers he saved, please accept this flag." Sarah took the box. She pressed it to her chest. She looked at Brooks, seeing the sweat on his brow and the dignity in his bearing. "Thank you," she whispered. "And I am sorry. I am so sorry for what happened to you." "Do not be, ma'am," Brooks said, a small, sad smile touching his lips. "I have faced worse things than him. Today is about Tyler." As the Morgans got into their car to head to the funeral home, and the general's convoy prepared to leave, the hard karma that the universe had promised began to manifest in the real world. At the police precinct, the phone lines were jammed. The mayor was on the line with the deputy chief, screaming so loud he did not need a phone. "I want him gone," the mayor yelled. "I do not care about union arbitration. I want him fired. I want him charged, and I want a press conference soon saying we do not condone this." But the worst part for Thompson was not the firing. It was the digging. Internet sleuths, fueled by the viral rage, had found Thompson's old Facebook posts. They found the jokes about excessive force, They found the forum posts where he bragged about tuning up suspects. And then a woman in another state saw the video. She saw Thompson's face, and she picked up the phone. She called the district attorney of Oakwood. "My name is Rebecca Thompson," she told the DA's secretary. "Years ago, I filed a report about an officer named Brad Thompson who assaulted my brother during a traffic stop. The department buried it, but I have the medical records. And now that everyone is looking, I think you might want to see them too." The snowball was becoming an avalanche. Thompson thought he was facing an assault charge and a firing. He had no idea that the harmless stops he had made for years, the people he had bullied because he thought they were powerless, were about to rise up all at once. He was sitting in an interrogation room, handcuffed to a table when the door opened. It was not a lawyer. It was an FBI agent. "Mr. Thompson," the agent said, sitting down and opening a thick file. "My name is Agent Michael Ross. I am with the Civil Rights Division. We saw the video and we have been taking a very interesting look at your arrest records for the years." Thompson went pale. Federal charges, civil rights violations. That was not just losing a job. That was years in a federal prison. I want a lawyer," Thompson whispered. "You are going to need a very good one," Agent Ross said, clicking a pen. "But I doubt anyone is going to want to take this case. You are radioactive, Brad. Even the Fraternal Order of Police just issued a statement condemning you." Thompson put his head on the cold metal table. The silence of the room was heavy, but it was nothing compared to the noise in his head. The image of the general, the image of the mother, the image of the flag. He had tried to be the biggest man on the street. He had tried to be a predator. But he had forgotten the first rule of the jungle. There is always a bigger predator. And Master Sergeant Brooks, he was just the bait. The general was the trap. And Brad Thompson had walked right into it. Inside the federal courthouse in Atlanta, the atmosphere was scorching. Former Officer Brad Thompson sat at the defendant's table. He was unrecognizable. The arrogant bulk he had carried in his uniform was gone, replaced by a gaunt, hollowed-out frame. He wore a cheap, ill-fitting gray suit. His good one had been sold along with his truck, his boat, and his house to pay for a legal defense that was failing miserably. His wife was not in the gallery. She had filed for divorce after the arrest, taking their 2 children to stay with her sister in Ohio. She could not handle the death threats, the reporters on the lawn, and the shame of being married to the most hated man in America. Thompson was alone. Across the aisle, the prosecution table was a fortress of confidence. Assistant U.S. Attorney Rachel Cross did not even look up at Thompson. She did not need to. The evidence was overwhelming. The video footage, the testimony of General Kane, the testimony of Chief Morgan, and the testimony of the 7 other victims who had come forward after seeing Thompson on the news. People Thompson had beaten, harassed, and planted evidence on over the years. The video had done more than just expose one bad stop. It had pulled the thread that unraveled an entire tapestry of corruption Thompson had woven around himself. All rise. The bailiff intoned. Judge Harold Bennett entered the room. He was a man known for his leniency with first-time offenders, a man who usually looked for the good in people. But that day, his face was stone. Thompson stood up, his legs trembling. "Mr. Thompson," Judge Bennett said, adjusting his glasses, "you have pleaded guilty to 1 count of deprivation of rights under color of law and 2 counts of obstruction of justice. Do you have anything to say before I pass sentence?" Thompson looked at the gallery. He saw Chief Morgan sitting in the back row, his face unreadable. He saw Master Sergeant Jamal Brooks wearing his dress blues, looking calm and dignified. Thompson's voice cracked. I just want to say I am sorry. I was stressed. I made a mistake. A mistake? Bennett repeated, leaning over the bench. Spilling coffee is a mistake, mister. Thompson, forgetting your keys is a mistake. What you did was not a mistake. It was a lifestyle. You viewed the citizens of Oakwood not as people to serve, but as prey to hunt. The judge picked up a piece of paper. You took an oath. You betrayed it. You took a badge. You tarnished it. And when you were confronted by a man of superior character, Master Sergeant Brooks, you tried to destroy him to save your own ego. The judge looked Thompson in the eye. This court finds that your actions were malicious, predatory, and a disgrace to the uniform you wore. I am sentencing you to a substantial term in a federal correctional institution without the possibility of parole. You are remanded to custody immediately. The gavel banged. It sounded like a gunshot. Thompson's knees gave out. He slumped into the chair, sobbing into his hands. The marshals did not give him a moment. They hauled him up, cuffed his hands behind his back, and marched him out the side door. As he passed the gallery, he looked at Brooks one last time. Brooks did not smile. He did not gloat. He simply nodded, a gesture of finality. The war was over. The threat was neutralized. Outside the courthouse, the steps were swarmed with reporters. The microphones were thrust into their faces. "Sergeant Brooks, how do you feel about the sentence?" a reporter shouted. "Do you feel justice was served?" Brooks stopped. He adjusted his beret. "Justice is a process," Brooks said, his voice deep and steady. "It does not undo the disrespect shown to Corporal Morgan's family, but it sends a message. The uniform, whether it is army green or police blue, is a heavy weight to carry. If you are not strong enough to carry it with honor, you should not put it on." "General Kane!" another reporter yelled. "What about the rumors of a new policy?" Kane stepped up to the mic. "It is not a rumor. Starting today, the Morgan Protocol is being adopted by the Department of Defense in coordination with local law enforcement agencies nationwide. It establishes strict guidelines for the interaction between civilian police and military transport. No soldier carrying the remains of a fallen hero will ever be harassed again. We are making sure of that." The camera bulbs flashed, capturing the two men, the general and the sergeant standing side by side. They were the embodiment of discipline, standing over the wreckage of a bully's career. The real karma, Brad Thompson did not go to a camp. Because of the high-profile nature of his crime and his former status as a police officer, he was sent to a maximum security facility for his own protection. He spent hours a day in a cell the size of a parking space. He lost his pension. The civil lawsuits filed by his previous victims bankrupted him completely. When he eventually gets out, he will be a middle-aged felon with no skills, no family, and a name that brings up 1,000 hate videos on Google. Meanwhile, Jamal Brooks retired from the Army and became the director of the Tyler Morgan Foundation, a nonprofit started by the chief and his wife to help veterans transition back to civilian life. On the anniversary of that humid afternoon in Oakwood, Jamal Brooks and David Morgan meet for coffee. They drive together to the cemetery. They stand over Tyler Morgan's grave, and they make sure the flag, the one Thompson tried to break, but only succeeded in making more sacred, is flying high and proud. In the end, Thompson wanted to be remembered. He wanted to be a big man, and he got his wish. He is remembered in every police academy in the state. His photo is on the screen during ethics training. The instructor points to Thompson's face and says, "Take a good look. This is what happens when you forget who you work for. Do not be a Thompson. Be a Brooks." This story reminds us that true strength is not about being the loudest person in the room or having the power to intimidate others. Officer Thompson thought his badge gave him the right to bully, but he learned the hard way that authority without integrity is nothing but weakness. Master Sergeant Brooks showed us that discipline, calmness, and honor are the ultimate weapons against tyranny. In the end, this story leaves us with a truth that hits straight to the heart. Real power isn't found in a badge, a uniform, or the ability to intimidate someone weaker than you. True strength lives in quiet discipline, unshakable honor, and the courage to do what's right, even when no one is watching. Master Sergeant Jamal Brooks could have ended Officer Brad Thompson's aggression in seconds, yet he chose restraint because he respected something far greater than his own pride: the law, the mission, and the memory of a fallen brother. Meanwhile, Thompson's badge became nothing more than a mask for his insecurity, and in a single moment of unchecked ego, he destroyed not only a sacred flag, but his entire future. The lesson is painfully clear. When you abuse the power given to you, you don't just wound others, you quietly dismantle your own life, piece by piece. Authority without integrity is the weakest thing in the world. Character, on the other hand, is the only armor that never fails. In a world full of cameras and instant judgment, the only thing that truly protects you is who you choose to be when the pressure is on. So, the next time life puts you in a position of power, whether over a subordinate, a stranger, or even your own family, remember Jamal Brooks standing calm in the face of injustice, and ask yourself, am I building a legacy of honor, or am I becoming the next cautionary tale? If this powerful story moved you, drop a comment below and tell me, what's one moment in your life when choosing integrity over ego changed everything? Which lesson hit you the hardest? And if you believe respect must be earned and justice should always prevail, hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell. New stories of karma and real-life lessons drop every week. Stay with us so you never miss one. Thanks for watching.